Welcome to the free audiobook version of The Everyday Pain Guide, your go-to guide when pain first strikes. Hi, I'm Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, and the podcast is taking a little detour to make my new book available in an audio-friendly version for everyone out there. Each episode will feature a bite-sized snippet from the book, and together we'll work our way through as much of it as is possible in this format. What's exciting about this is that I'm reading parts of the book to you before it's even available on the shelves. Plus, unlike with a traditional audiobook, you can engage with the content and chat with me about what you hear. You get to ask questions and tell me what you think as each episode rolls out. So sit back and relax as I bring you today's installment of the second book in the Everyday Pain Guide series, Fix the Fire Damage. In the last episode, I introduced the idea of garbage in and garbage out, and a way to think about everything that goes through your body tissues and cells like a Rube Goldberg machine, also known as your body machine. Today's episode introduces two groups of garbage that find their way into our body machine through a number of entry points, mouth, nose, and skin being the big ones. When we have a general understanding of these two types of garbage, we can better manage their impact on our body chemistry, and thereby we can exert some degree of control over potentially pain-causing inflammation body-wide. I call these two types of garbage the sneaky three and the big three. So let's now dig into what exactly those 6 types of garbage are. A quick reminder that the information, techniques, and suggestions discussed here are not intended as a substitute for your own individual medical care. Please consult a healthcare provider before implementing any advice referenced here. Your sneaky 3, biological quirks. Science is now giving us a better understanding of the many minor genetic variations that exist within our DNA. These variations, also called mutations, are gene copying errors and referred to as single nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs, verbally referred to as what sounds like SNPs. How or whether those minor SNP mutations express themselves by causing symptoms can be determined by our exposure to environmental stressors found in our air, food, water, soaps, and lotions. Mutations may never show themselves, but under certain stressful circumstances, symptoms can emerge that otherwise wouldn't if it weren't for those individual gene SNPs. Even emotional stress and trauma can change expression of our gene mutations. The switching on and off of gene expressions is a part of the area of study called epigenetics. Knowing that these genetic quirks can become activated or deactivated from some environmental influence somewhere in your lifetime helps to explain why we all respond differently to the many different compounds inside of the garbage that we are exposed to on a daily basis. Consequently, when you start to pay attention to the quality of the garbage you're taking in, you can single-handedly influence the expression of your unique genetic quirks. There is good evidence showing that by taking control of certain lifestyle factors like nutrition, stress, physical activity, and work habits, we can proactively influence various gene expressions. This can be the difference between wellness and illness, or thriving and just surviving. There are some common yet under-recognized biological variants that can unexpectedly increase our incoming garbage burden. The sneaky 3 are 3 such examples of biological quirks that can make some people's garbage burden harder to spot and less predictable, which can render the impact of seemingly benign incoming garbage more uniquely disruptive and variable over time. This is what makes them sneaky and not always easy to predict. So now in the book, there's a chart with examples of each of these sneaky 3 biological quirks and their garbage triggers. Column 1 is food sensitivities. Column 2 is chemical sensitivities. And column 3 is environmental allergies. And the lists include just a few examples of each. So for example, food sensitivities include dairy, wheat, caffeine, something called amines, it's a chemical compound in a certain food group, soy, yeast, sulfites, and the foods that fall under the acronym FODMAPs, which we'll tackle at a later date. In the column under chemical sensitivities, we find things like petroleum, PFAS, which are those forever chemicals, fragrances, cleaning products, diesel fumes, formaldehyde, and epoxies, which are found in glues. And then the allergies, the environmental allergies include things like pollen, pet dander, dust mites, and mold. What does it look like when someone suffers from one of these sneaky 3 biological quirks? Symptoms of food sensitivities include abdominal pain, diarrhea, bloating, headaches, or migraines, heartburn, and nausea. Symptoms of chemical sensitivities include headaches, rashes, asthma, muscle or joint aches, and fatigue. Symptoms of environmental allergies include sneezing, coughing, runny nose, congestion, itchy eyes, fatigue, headaches, and wheezing. All of the symptoms listed are different expressions of excessive inflammatory burden by incoming garbage triggers. But headaches and muscle and joint pain, in particular, could easily be confused as being the result of some mechanical strain as well. As you proceed with your exploration of your own body chemistry, it's a good idea to keep in mind that as much overlap as there can be within and among these sneaky 3 sets of symptoms, there are also many different possible reasons for them, including mechanical stress or emotional stress. So it's understandable when we find ourselves focusing on posture, movement, or psychotherapy, but forget to look at body chemistry, and vice versa. To dig deeper into your specific food, chemical, and/or environmental sensitivities, please consider seeking care from a functional medicine doctor or a naturopathic physician. For the purpose of better pain coping, it's not always necessary to determine the exact cause of your biochemical burden. Simply knowing that these are possible triggers should help explain why pain isn't resolving with attention to your posture or movement alone. The tools in the Body Chemistry Action Plan can work for you regardless of exactly which garbage burdens might be at play. The big 3. Universally burdensome garbage. These are the 3 obvious types of incoming garbage that cause disruption for most people. They are universal troublemakers, even if we don't always feel it right away. Number 1, sugar. Number 2, processed foods. Number 3, caffeine. Sugar includes alcohol, simple carbohydrates, and dairy. Alcohol and refined carbohydrates, many baked goods, get converted in the body and are broken down into their simplest form, which is sugar, as glucose molecules. Fructose should get an honorable mention here due to its equally ubiquitous nature these days. It's frequently found in processed foods that are considered healthy. Anything sweetened with fruit or fruit juice can be just as problematic as foods sweetened with refined sugar. In fact, fructose intake has been linked to high cholesterol and in particular to the less beneficial low-density lipoprotein LDL type of cholesterol. Processed foods are on this list because they are one of the most pervasive sources of saturated fats. Saturated fats are the real problem and undeniably inflammatory, according to the literature. You'll often hear that dairy and red meat are 2 food groups known to be highest in saturated fat content, but single ingredient whole foods like these are less likely to be the source of excess intake when compared to ultra-processed foods like commercial breakfast cereals, ice cream, sausages, and instant soups, for example. You'll find more details and examples of processed foods in the Body Chemistry Action Plan under the Release Action phase. Caffeine is a confusing topic and easily misunderstood. You will see more studies citing benefits of caffeine sources like coffee and tea than you will see those that cite drawbacks. The reason it's one of the big three inflammation triggers here is because of how caffeine influences sugar metabolism and insulin. But caffeine is also metabolized differently in people depending on their gene biology, which makes it part of the sneaky three garbage burdens as well. Some people are caffeine sensitive and will experience disrupted sleep and panic attacks in response, while others can have a cup of coffee with dinner and sleep like babies. How caffeine affects sugar metabolism is equally individual, but the consistent outcome is some degree of increased blood glucose levels because of the varying degrees of insulin resistance that caffeine can cause. It's well documented that insulin resistance and increased blood glucose are both associated with inflammation. Since pain and inflammation is a function of total overall garbage burden, the less biochemical strain your body is already managing, the less any of these burdensome garbage items register as problematic. Typically, when we are younger, we have greater biological buffers because all systems are still functioning at top efficiency. Our younger selves have not been alive long enough yet to have a troublesome lifetime burden of garbage in most cases, which is why so much can pass through us undetected during our younger years. If the garbage buildup from other things like mechanical or emotional stress is not being controlled well or has simply built up over time, then we may notice every little additional strain to the system. These big three sources of garbage in are burdensome for everyone, but because of great variation in tolerance from person to person, you may be someone who doesn't feel it at all. The sneaky three, on the other hand, are only problematic for people with specific gene biology. To top it all off, how any of the big three or the sneaky three impact us can fluctuate with levels of emotional stress. Our stress biology is a major garbage influencer, so much so that it will get its own chapters in Section 3. That completes another bite-sized installation of the chapter entitled Body Chemistry Repair Guide, Part 1 from Volume 2 of the Everyday Pain Guide series, Fix the Fire Damage. Don't forget to check the links in the show notes for how to get your free year-long subscription to all the extra bonus material, including my debriefing videos and all the research footnotes over at Better Pain Coping on Substack. I'll have my own reactions to these episodes over there in those bonus videos. It's a place for conversation starters about everything you hear, your reactions, your questions, and my own additional thoughts that didn't make it into the book. I really look forward to seeing you over there. Here's a parting question for you today. Did any one of the big three or sneaky three surprise you? Or maybe one of them made you think, oh, that's totally my kryptonite. That's the thing that might be causing my bouts of pain. And if so, was it one of the big three, sugar, caffeine, or processed foods? Or was it a sneaky three, food, chemical, or environmental, sensitivity, or allergy? Let me know your thoughts when you join me over on Substack and we can chat more. In the next episode, what to do with your garbage and an introduction to the garbage journeys. See you then. This episode was an excerpt from The Everyday Pain Guide, your go-to guide when pain first strikes. Written and narrated by me, Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, with audio editing and production provided by Organized Sound Productions. Do you have questions or comments about today's episode? You can shoot me an email anytime at hello@stopeverydaypain.com. That's HELLO@stopeverydaypain.com. If you have friends or family members who you know are struggling with persistent, recurring aches and pains, tell them to check out the podcast while they're waiting for the book. To help me get this information to as many people who need it as possible, please consider leaving an honest review. But I'd also be super grateful for a simple like, follow, or share. Thank you for helping me put a stop to everyday pain.